Good evening. I would like to call to order the August 18th, 2025 Lake Washington School Board meeting. Let the record reflect that all board members are present. And we have two of our student reps, James and Suniri. The board values public participation and engagement in the meetings of the board. Board meetings will continue to be live streamed on the LWC website and are available for viewing following the conclusion of the board meeting as well. The public are always welcome to email the board at boardmembers@lwsd.org. First item is the land acknowledgement. Director LaLiberty.
The Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District acknowledges that our district is on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights on this land, including the Duwamish and the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived here since time immemorial. We commit to continue collaborating with our Native community to teach the indigenous history of this land and these local tribes to all children of our district. We also commit to provide the best possible education for all children of Native descent who attend our schools.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the August 18th, 2025 agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Yoakum to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Tonight, we are going to recognize our student representatives. I should have mentioned that we have our two new student board reps in the audience, Sarah and Humsini. Director Yoakum.
Thank you. The board is entering into our fourth year with student board representatives, and it's been exciting to watch and help grow this program and see it evolve, and especially as we try and navigate the most meaningful ways for our student reps to engage with the board and the students in our district. This year we had 82 incredible 10th graders apply for the student board rep position. 2 of those applicants were selected to join our 2 returning representatives to serve a 2-year term during their junior and senior years. And I would love for our student board reps to take a moment to introduce themselves. And can you please, we will start here, please introduce yourself, your grade, your school, and most importantly, your favorite cookie. We will start with our soon-to-be seniors, followed by our soon-to-be juniors.
Hi, I'm Suniri. I'm going to be a senior in the fall at Eastlake High School in Sammamish, and my favorite cookie is probably pumpkin cookies. I just really like pumpkin.
Hi, my name is James. I'm also about to be a senior for the upcoming year, and I go to Lake Washington High School, and my favorite cookie is probably Snickerdoodle.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm a rising junior at Redmond High School, and my favorite cookie is probably the white macadamia cookie from Starbucks. Subway, not Starbucks.
Okay. Hello, my name is Samsini, and I go to Emerson K-12, and I'm a rising junior, and my favorite cookie is probably a lemon snickerdoodle.
Thank you, Director Yoakum and students. Next item on the agenda. Tonight, we'd also like to recognize the service of a board member. After our last meeting, I reluctantly accepted Director Leah Choi's resignation from District 3. She was adamant that she did not want to be publicly recognized, but she no longer has any control over our agenda. So we are going to publicly recognize her anyway. Dr. Holman, do you have a few words to say?
I do, more than a few, possibly. Tonight we pause to recognize and honor the service of former board member Leah Choi, who dedicated 4 years to serving our students, families, and community as a member of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors. During her tenure, Leah helped to guide our district through important and meaningful decisions that will have a lasting impact on generations of students. Under her leadership, the board supported the school start time work to better align the research on adolescent sleep patterns. This change reflects not only our commitment to student well-being, but also Leah's belief that decisions should be rooted in what is best for students. Leah also played a critical role in the passage of multiple levies during her time, including a major capital construction levy that will transform our schools and school district. Because of this work, Kamaikan Middle School, Evergreen Middle School, Samantha Smith Elementary and Alcott Elementary will be rebuilt and enlarged, creating modern and welcoming learning environments for our students. The levy also included the refurbishment of the field house and community pool at Juanita High School, an investment that strengthens both our schools and our community. Another important area of leadership during Leah's service was the district's financial stewardship. Over the past 3 years, the board has supported the difficult work of making budget reductions to ensure that our revenues and expenditures were aligned. This effort required hard choices, thoughtful deliberation, and a steady commitment to balancing the budget while still investing in the district's priorities. Leah's voice and leadership throughout this process were instrumental in ensuring that we emerge stronger and financially stable for the future. In addition, Leah supported the adoption of a board policy on sustainability, ensuring that our district continues to take thoughtful and responsible steps towards a more sustainable future. This policy reflects her vision that schools should not only educate, but also model stewardship, environmental sustainability, and resource conservation management for the generations that we serve. Leah's leadership was further demonstrated in her role as board president. And I'll say as a side note, taking on being president after just 1 year of service is no small task, case in point. And demonstrated in her role as board president, a position she held for 2 of her 4 years. As president, she provided steady guidance, a clear focus on student success, and a collaborative spirit that helped strengthen the governance of our district. On behalf of the Lake Washington School District, I want to thank Leah for her service, her leadership, and her unwavering commitment to our students, families, and staff. The impact of her time on the board will be felt for years to come, and we are grateful for her dedication to making our schools and school districts stronger, more equitable, and future ready. Please join me in recognizing Director Leah Choi.
I remember when I the first time I heard the name Leah Choi, it was May of 2021, right after filing week, which is that moment when candidates step forward to run for elected office. A friend asked me, "Do you know this Leah Choi who's running for school board?" I didn't, and frankly, we wondered if maybe she was a political opportunist using the school board as a stepping stone to something else. We were very wrong. In the years since, I've gotten to know Leah, first as a constituent, then as a board colleague. And I can say without hesitation, Leah embodies everything we hope for in public service. She is brilliant, she is driven, she is deeply principled. Her impact on this district has been both immediate and lasting. During her time on the board, Leah championed later high school start times that better align with what we know about adolescent health, establishing and growing our student board rep program, our board's first ever environmental sustainability policy, and an innovative approach to board progress monitoring that we'll first implement this fall, strengthening this board's accountability and focus on student outcomes. These aren't just policy wins, they are meaningful improvements that will benefit our students, our school, and our community for years to come. Beyond her policy work, I will always appreciate Leah's sharp sense of humor. This work carries enormous weight. The decisions are hard, the tensions can be high. And yet, in those moments, Leah reminded us that laughter and joy can coexist alongside seriousness and responsibility. Her humor didn't diminish the gravity of our work, it gave us the energy to keep going when things were toughest. Director Choi, your service has been nothing short of exemplary. While we are very sad to see you go, we are profoundly grateful for the legacy you've helped build. Thank you for your integrity and for your dedication to our students. The next item on the agenda will be public comment. The Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District welcomes the public to the business meetings of the board and encourages community engagement. The board dedicates 30 minutes to hear from the public during the public comment period of the meeting, with each individual provided up to 2 minutes to speak. Participants should not expect a response from the board at the end of their comments, as we dedicate this time to listening to your voice and would like to get as many members of the public an opportunity to speak as time allows. The traffic light will turn yellow when 60 seconds remain, signaling speakers to conclude their remarks, and the light will turn red at the conclusion of 2 minutes, indicating time is complete. Please be aware the microphone will be turned off within 10 seconds of conclusion of time. All speakers are asked to conclude when their time is complete. Members of the public can sign up to participate on the district website. Sign up closes at noon on the day of the board meeting, and comments will be offered in the order of sign up. Speakers can designate another person to speak in their place in advance of the noon deadline, but speaker substitutions at the meeting unfortunately cannot be accommodated. I'd like to also remind everyone here this evening that this opportunity to engage in dialogue is also an opportunity to model respectful discourse to our students and our community. We ask that the audience refrain from commenting and from prolonged applause following each comment, as it takes up time and prevents us from listening to as many speakers as we can fit into our dedicated 30 minutes. Once the public comment portion of our business meeting concludes, we ask that everyone who is not interested in listening to the rest of the agenda items exit quietly and in an orderly fashion so that we can continue the rest of our meeting. As a reminder, the board does not discuss personnel matters at board meetings. Members of the community are encouraged to attempt to resolve issues with teachers, school principals, or other district personnel before bringing issues to the board. Additionally, speakers should refrain from naming students unless they are the parent or guardian of said students. Our first speaker for public comment is Patricia Anders.
Hello, thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. My name is Patricia Anders. I'm a school nurse at Lake Washington High School. I reside in the district, and I'm also a parent of former Lake Washington School District students. And I am also the nurse department lead of LWESP. The role of a school nurse can be that of a licensed healthcare provider to delegate care, medication administration, treatment, and monitors state compliance. We assess complex or urgent health concerns and make final decisions on health-based class attendance and communications with students and families and providers to create care plans and manage chronic conditions. Most nurses in the school district cover multiple schools, and the HROP, who is the health room office professional, is essential to carry out our delegated services to students, providing basic first aid, communicating with school nurse for next steps, and ensuring that families are aware of injured students and ill students that may need to be home, and many clerical tasks and scheduled health room related duties. I think it's important that you know, as members of the school board, what we have been experiencing with this shortage of health room hours over the last 2 years. Inconsistent staffing in the health room, many tasks are unable to be completed, significant increases in school nurse workload, fewer staff are available to provide health room medications or first aid. We have significant backlogs in record keeping and health plans, higher risk of delayed in care and emergency responses. We have also a decline in parent and community trust. Parents expect support and on-site care for their child when they are at school. And when the health room is closed or not covered for the risk, we are risking that trust. Something happened with the light. To give perspective to an unstaffed health room, let's compare it to a special ed teacher not having a para, a principal asking a substitute to run the school, or an office manager asking another staff member to do payroll. We need health room office professionals best to best to ensure our students and families receive the care they need and deserve, as spoken by the school district. It is part of our strategic plan to ensure the wellness of every student in our district. Thank you.
Next up is Lydia Wheeler.
My name is Lydia Wheeler. Like Tricia before me, I'm here to represent the Lake Washington Educational Support Professionals as the president of our union, a voter and resident of the Lake Washington School District, and an account tech serving the maintenance department. Hi. The last time I came here to speak to the board, it was to express hope for a collaborative and effective bargaining process that would wrap up in plenty of time ahead of August 31st when our contract expires. Today I am back and unfortunately feel confident we will not have a deal before the end of the month. Instead of hoping for a speedy resolution then, I'm here today to implore you to invest in our caring, committed professionals that ensure that our staff, community, and especially our students get access to the services they need to thrive. While our certificated colleagues are central to that service, to education itself, actual access begins with classified educators like those in my union. Members of LWESP are the first faces greeting families when they enter a school. We're vital supports for the health of all students, and especially medically fragile ones. We touch every purchase order in the district. We coordinate staff appreciation and professional development, and help keep our schools running whether an admin's on site or not. Every day we live the need to do more with less as our unit is cut and the expectations of our work continue to grow. But there are certain areas that we know need investment, and our unit is one of them. Investment to ensure that staff that get sick serving students have 12 days to rest, investment to ensure our gains in previous years aren't eroded by inflation, and investment to return health room staffing back to safe levels with bus-to-bus coverage. Now's the time to invest in LWESP, wrap this bargain up, and ensure that students, staff, and our community can have our full attention back on our vital jobs. Thank you very much for your time.
Next up is Danielle Pino.
All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Danny Pino, and I work for Red Robin in Redmond. I am here to present all the opportunities Red Robin can provide to the Lake Washington School District. We are invested not just as a corporation, but as a place of employment for your students, parents, and families of your students, and your dedicated staff. As a parent of a school-age child myself, I am asked many times to participate in student fundraisers. Red Robin offers a free fundraising program with no limit on amount of events through Force for Good. 20% of sales raised on those nights of included sales are given back in the form of a check to any type of thing that you're fundraising for, whether it's back to school, PTSA, but yeah. So yeah, sorry, I'm nervous. Let's see, we also supply reward coupons for students. They are another free resource. If you guys look through your folder, we have things like student awards, there are bonus bucks, there are burgers for books, which encourage reading. These are all free resources that we can provide. But yeah, just things to show rewards to our students, for putting in great effort and, something as a treat that they can look forward to that costs nothing to the school district. We are invested in our community and have partnered with fundraising for other nonprofits, connecting with the Boys and Girls Club and local veterans. We are looking to connect and be a foundation of a place that you can rely on to get your funds raised. We are invested in our students, being one who grew up local to the whole area, Redmond, Kirkland, Woodinville. It's just nice to be able to give back to our students. And we do value not just our students, but the staff that provide for them. But yeah, so there are some coupons that show you just everything that we offer. My business card is in there if anyone wants to connect. We are happy to work with you. Thank you.
Next up is Scott Hagerman.
Thank you, board members. My name is Scott Hagerman. I have served the Redmond community for 28 years. I, along with the members of SEIU, do our jobs to make sure that we have a positive impact on our students and their families. We take our jobs and roles seriously and understand the importance of the work we do and the opportunity we have to help ensure all our students are equipped for academic and life success. I come before you as the Vice President of the LWSD chapter of SEIU. Representing over 400 members, we have been in negotiations since April with district leadership to try and come to an agreement on a contract that as of Saturday has expired. Unfortunately, we still cannot come to an agreement. We have met multiple times in the past month, most of us unpaid, to come to an agreement only to be disappointed. We've responded to what we felt were fair compromises and did our part to move towards an agreement, asking for less than 5% and still nothing. We have been asked to consider things that will directly harm the income of our members. The top 18 employees represent over $4 million in budget overhead. The entire group of SEIU is $1.4 million. We hear day in and day out about inclusion and equity, and I am wondering how over 400 people feel included when you cannot offer us a living wage. I'm confused trying to figure out how it is equitable that 18 people can take up 4 times as much budget space as 400. I understand that knowing and doing our students' families and their jobs, and I have to decide if I can pay my bills. And I have to decide whether my wage is going to be enough. When most of our group is offered less than IPD, but we see raises in the 18 employees at the top that are between 13 and 20%. Where is the equity? How is it equitable, fair, or inclusive? Do we not count? Are we not deserving? How do we come to work, pouring our souls into our work, only to have the leadership tell us we are not important enough to have a real wage? My ask is simple. Please hold the leadership of this district accountable, demand that they take this matter seriously, and do what is right. Stand up for our employees, appreciate and recognize the commitment we have made to our district, students, and their families, and give us the wages that we have put in the time and effort for. Thank you.
Next up is Shahina Nassar.
Good evening, dear board members. I stand here today representing my SEIU union and team, and speaking from a teacher's point of view. I love what I do. I have been an employee of Lake Washington School District for the last 24 years as a preschool teacher. I take pride in what I do and pour my heart and soul, as all the members in this group do day in and day out. What hurts the most is that we have been struggling to get a fair raise for the work we do, but unfortunately there is no equity when it comes to these raises. We understand that these are difficult times, but when the top half can get 10 to 14% of the raise, the 400 members of this union cannot even ask for a 2.5% raise or even under. This doesn't feel equitable to us. I will give you a little example of how underpaid we are. Preschool teachers are one of the groups in the SEIU union who are in the middle base in the pay group. The starting pay of the preschool teacher in our district is $32.26 per hour with no additional compensations. A preschool teacher in North Shore School District starts at $38.84 per hour. A Bellevue preschool teacher starts with $46,000 to $60,000 per year, including base salary and additional pay. The IAs in our district are the lowest paid employees of this district. The starting pay for them is $25.54, and a very few of them works full 8-hour shifts. We would like to see an openness to get fair raises for all the employees of SEIU union. Thank you.
Next up is Kelly Dillingham.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Dillingham, and I helped draft the Sammamish boundary petition that you recently received, which requests a boundary change from the Snoqualmie Valley School District. Our petitioning territory has 16 school-age children, only 4 of whom will attend Snoqualmie schools this fall. For the upcoming school year, we will have more students attending Lake Washington schools than Snoqualmie. However, Snoqualmie receives our property tax revenue. As illustrated by the map exhibits and the commuting information in our materials, the distance to Snoqualmie schools from our area is unreasonable. We believe it's time to update the school boundary to move our territory into the Lake Washington School District, which already serves neighborhoods on adjacent streets. This request will not add a transportation burden to Lake Washington, as your district's buses already commute to our area. We've done a lot of research as we understand that a district's primary concern is student welfare and the potential impact a boundary change has on the district as a whole. This boundary update would have minimal impact to both school districts, but will have a huge impact on the children and families in our neighborhood. We would be happy to discuss our petition analysis with you in more detail, and we have additional neighbors who would like to share with you as well. We believe that the materials supporting our petition shows overwhelming cause that supports this request, and we have not identified any territory residents who oppose the petition. We recognize that a boundary petition can be a contentious and time-consuming process. We want to partner with you to find a constructive solution for our children. We're asking for fair access to local schools that are located a fair distance from our homes to provide our children and families a fair chance to connect with their peers and community. Connected kids foster connected communities. Thank you.
Next is Saurabh Srivastava.
Good evening. My name is Saurabh. My 8-year-old attends private school, not because we wanted to, but because our assigned school district simply doesn't work for us. For context, 7 out of 16 kids in our neighborhood, that is whooping 43%, had to opt for private school. That's far higher than any average. Among the remaining kids, 5 are studying in Lake Washington through choice transfer, and only 4 have opted for assigned school district. That demonstrates that there is a systemic problem. Private school is an unnecessary burden on top of high property taxes we already pay to support public education. When my daughter started school at 5, sending her to Snoqualmie meant a 1-hour bus ride each way, with no bathroom facility. That's 2 hours a day lost to commuting for a 5-year-old. We simply could not put her through that. Looking ahead, when my daughter reaches middle school, there is no middle school specific bus for our neighborhood. So kids share the bus with high schoolers. Because high school is further away, 16 miles as you see, the bus starts early. So middle schoolers must also start early, meaning a 6:30 a.m. pickup, a long ride, and then waiting 35 minutes at school before school even begins. And the irony is, Lake Washington buses already come to our neighborhood. Many stop right across the street. Transferring us would not add routes, it would simply align us with the schools that are already serving our community. Socially, my daughter has no friends from her school in our neighborhood. Kids across the street go to Carson Elementary. She hears about school events and play dates she can't be part of, simply because of this outdated boundary. All of our daily life, grocery, library, temple, doctors, is centered in Sammamish. Everything about our lives is aligned with Lake Washington schools. I just have an ask of this board. I request at least one person from the board take a ride from our neighborhood to our assigned Snoqualmie Valley schools and see if it is justified to send kids to these schools or if it indicates a systemic problem that this board can solve. Thank you, everyone.
Next up is Catherine Dillingham.
Hi, I'm Catherine Dillingham, and I'm currently a junior in high school. I've lived in the same house in Sammamish since I was born, and I've attended private schools since preschool. When I was little, my parents didn't feel that Snoqualmie Valley schools were a good option, primarily because of how far away the schools are and how long the bus ride is. Now as a high schooler, I can't even imagine attending Mount Si High School, which is 16 miles from my house. Especially as a new driver, I wouldn't feel comfortable driving on 202 to reach Mount Si, even if my parents would let me. And while I could take the bus, I need as much sleep as I can get. And if I went to Mount Si, I would need to catch the bus at 6:30 in the morning, which is before I even get up for my private school commute. The daily bus commute to Mount Si is over 2 hours, and my current schedule definitely doesn't have room for that. Currently after school, when I don't have sports practices, I often stay late to attend office hours with teachers for extra help, work on homework, or hang out with friends. None of that would be possible if I attended Mount Si. Also, while I would love to do cheer at Mount Si, I wouldn't be able to participate in sports because it would take my parents almost an hour to pick me up from practices. I know that I have been fortunate to receive a great education attending private schools. However, I've always been sad that I don't have friends from school within walking distance. My friends from church all attend either Eastlake or Skyline High Schools, which are both located in Sammamish. I don't even know anyone who goes to Mount Si. It doesn't make sense to bus Sammamish students to Snoqualmie, a long way from their neighbors and community. It is too late for me personally to benefit from this boundary change, but I hope that you will get this resolved for other current and future kids in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Next is Kaylina Druckman.
Hello. I spoke here on June 2nd regarding my daughter's choice transfer situation. She attended Carson Elementary last year for kindergarten, the closest school to our home, but with Carson closed to transfers this year, she's been denied to return for the coming school year. While her great group of friends from Carson will be starting first grade together in a couple of weeks, my daughter is set to be starting over without any familiar teachers, staff, and friends she grew to love last year. I have an appeal hearing on Wednesday to try to keep her in her established school community since it looks like there is space available in her grade at Carson. For us, choice transfer is less of a choice and more of a necessity due to illogical boundaries that assign us to an elementary school that is 9 miles away, when there are 12 elementary schools closer to us in both distance and drive time. This boundary presents hardships that only increase with older students and have affected numerous families in my area assigned to Snoqualmie Valley School District. I submitted the boundary petition, including the Devereaux neighborhood, with my neighbors as Kelly, Sarab, and Catherine just spoke about. This petition marks the territory's 4th request since the area was developed in 2003. After reaching out to all 65 homes and talking with the majority of these families, it is clear that this transfer is and has long been strongly supported by our residents. Please read the testimonial letters from 13 families included in the petition packet, as they represent varying perspectives of the impact this boundary has and show our unity in requesting this update. There are additional families who are planning to come to share their perspective as well, so please be in touch about when you would prefer to hear from them. I'm hopeful the boundary will be fixed, so this can be the last time all parties have to go through this time-consuming petition process. This update will benefit Lake Washington by reducing the time and resources spent processing numerous choice transfers and appeals from our residents, while increasing district revenue by about $380,000 annually and minimally impacting enrollment and bus routes. There is extensive supporting information in our petition packet, as I've sent each of you by email. Please reach out with any questions that you may have as we go through this process. Thanks for your time.
Next up is Ankit Goel.
Thank you, board, for listening to us. Hi, my name is Ankit Goel, and my family also shares some of the similar concerns as my neighbors did. I'm writing to respectfully appeal for a future school reassignment for my child, who is currently 3 years old, and due to the anticipated challenges posed by our current school zoning, based on the current assignment, our designated school is approximately 10 miles away, which would result in a daily bus commute of about 1 hour each way once my child begins kindergarten. By contrast, a school less than a mile away from our home would involve only a 10-minute commute each way. The difference between this nearly 2 hours daily versus 20 minutes daily represents a major quality of life concern for our family as we plan for our child's educational start. At 5 or 6 years old, children are still developing their physical and emotional resilience. A prolonged commute of almost 2 hours per day will likely be exhausting and could affect my child's ability to focus and engage meaningfully in the classroom. Also, young children have limited bladder control, and the extended time on the road increases the likelihood of restroom-related accidents, which can be distressing and embarrassing. This daily stress could undermine their confidence and sense of security at a very young age. Socially, being assigned at a different school, far from the neighborhood, making it difficult for my child to form friendships with peers who live nearby. This separation limit opportunities for play dates, group learning, and community bonding, essential elements for a kindergartner's social growth. It would also hinder our family's ability to participate in school events and volunteer activities, which are vital for building a strong school-home connection. Given these concerns, I kindly request that you approve this petition so that our child can go to a school less than a mile away from our house. A nearby school would not only reduce the physical and emotional toll on my child, but also nurture a sense of belonging, stability, and community engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment period. As I mentioned, if you're not interested in remaining for the remainder of our board meeting, you are welcome to quietly exit. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the August 18th, 2025 consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Director Stewart.
I'd like to have extracted the information on the fee schedule, facility use fee schedule.
You'd like to remove that from the consent agenda?
I'd like to have it extracted from consent and moved over to non-consent.
Is there a second? No. Okay. So then I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Yoakum. Superintendent Holman, will you poll the board?
I will. Director Yoakum?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Nope.
Vice President LaLiberty?
Yes.
And President Guthrie?
Yes. Motion carries. Superintendent Holman, will you review the donations?
Yeah, we have one donation on in the board's packet tonight from Evergreen Middle School PTSA to support stipends for leadership and band and to purchase PE equipment. So I want to say thank you to the Evergreen PTSA.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is legislative business. Dr. Holman, do you or staff have a legislative update?
We do not tonight.
All right. Then the next item on the agenda is the public hearing. No, not the public hearing. Just the adoption of the 2025-26 budget. Dr. Holman.
Yes, and so as the board is aware, we've been on a journey to bring a budget to you that has revenues and expenditures aligned for the 25-26 school year and into the coming years. You've received multiple updates in study sessions, in writing to provide you with the context as to the reductions, the changes in revenues, changes in expenditures for this overall budget. You had your public hearing at the August 4th board meeting, and we actually had someone come to the hearing and provide us with comment, and it was really good comment. So I took some notes and some things to follow up on. And so with that, tonight the board is taking action on the budget.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2410, adoption of 2025-26 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any board member questions or comments?
Okay, I'll say one thing. It's always, every year that I've done this, it's always sort of an anticlimactic process tonight. We go through, well, for this budget in particular, actually years of work for this particular year's budget. And then it feels strange to adopt it with such little fanfare, but I mean, that is because of the process and the amount of work that went into it. So I just appreciate everything. I appreciate staff bringing all of us along as we went through the budget this year. And I'm really happy that we're now adopting a balanced budget after 3 or 4 years of work and process that went into this.
All right. It has been moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director LaLiberty that the board adopt resolution number 2410, adoption of 2025-26 budget as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is policy updates for OE10, learning environment and treatment of students. This is a first reading of updated policy language. Dr. Holman.
So this is a reflection of there's never enough time to get everything done that we want to. But I really appreciate the board's commitment to this policy. The environment of our students and their experience in our schools is tremendously important. And so the work related to really understanding that and developing a policy that reflects our current students, their experience, and this board's values is tremendously important. So we have done some work over the 24-25 school year related to this. We brought a draft policy in study session, had discussion about that, and then paused for a period of time. And now we're back. We do have a plan for this year to conduct a series of engagements, both supported by our student reps and that work, but also with some of the adults that can help inform this as well, so that we have a newly adopted policy, superintendent's interpretation, and indicators by the end of this school year, so that as we go into the next year, it's prepared and ready for monitoring. And so with that, Deputy Superintendent Gillingham and Associate Superintendent Ortega will be presenting what we brought to the board in study session, almost as a reminder of where we've been. We have the draft policy for a first reading, and the feedback we get tonight will make adjustments and changes and most likely bring that back to the September 15 board meeting for adoption, or a second reading of the policy, depending on where we land this evening. So with that, I'll hand it over to the team.
All right, Dr. Holman, thank you. So tonight we're going to be presenting for first read amended changes to Operational Expectation 10, Treatment of Students and the Learning Environment. And just kind of recap, over the past couple of years, the board has expressed an interest in updating this language to better reflect its values, particularly thinking around kind of those that are more closely tied to the student experience. The board has also expressed an interest in having language that's much more comprehensive than the existing policy language around what the student experience looks like. And we've engaged over the past couple of years in conversations with the board also on looking at kind of what frameworks or models might be used as inspiration, and we'll go back and kind of touch back on those. So the current language, OE 10, is essentially indicates that it's a learning environment safe, respectful, and free from unnecessary disruption and conducive to learning. And there are 5 sub-policy areas about what the superintendent will, and then 3 prohibitions that the superintendent is intended to make sure don't happen. The board's actually engaged in this. This will be the 5th time that the board is engaged on the topic of OE10. So back in March 4 of 2024, there's a study session. Our student board representatives shared their perspective and engaged in conversation around the experience. We followed that up with a study session on August 19th. Where we brought to the board a number of frameworks that Associate Superintendent Ortega will be going through here in just a moment. But the intent was really looking at is how do we align with kind of the best practices in the research, and looking at kind of where the board's values kind of intersect with that, such that we can draw this through line from the board's values to the ability to actually directly affect the classroom and the school environment. So we continue that in November 4th, 2024, and then use those conversations to draft the policy that we're bringing forth to the board tonight. In that December 9th, there was kind of some conversation around how do we engage our students and community stakeholders in this policy. And so after some time to kind of for that to marinate, decided that if we actually have something that the public can respond to that we think at this time it reflects kind of the best thinking of where the board's at, and then we would engage in a process supporting the board this year to engage students, gain some perspective and feedback that could also help to inform the superintendent's interpretation and indicators. And so the board has set aside a couple of linkages in, I believe, December and January, if I'm remembering correctly. So with the idea being that then the board would receive feedback, could inform additional changes to policy, and by the end of the year, we'd adopt any revisions to policy as well as the interpretations and indicators. So as we've gone, the board has gone through the process of revising and updating its policies. We've been looking at a number of different kind of what are the frameworks that might guide that. So I'm going to turn it over to Associate Superintendent Ortega, who will just refresh our memory on that and then walk us through the proposed policy.
Thank you so much. Some of the frameworks that Some of the frameworks that this board and the work associated with this OE are research-based, ones that are already in use in our district. So for example, the Danielson Framework for Teaching, AWSP Leadership Framework, others such as the LWSD Student Profile, very much homegrown, the Social Discipline Window, dealing with restorative practices, the 6 principles for assessments and grading. So all of these research-based or homegrown frameworks were used in order to develop the language for this OE moving forward. And if you look at the preamble, it talks about what the superintendent shall, and some of the broad values that the district has taken on as being a responsibility for the district as well as the superintendent, and that is to have a respectful and affirming environment, to foster dedication to inclusive learning, to be purposeful and equitable, to support student behavior, and to be conducive to specific learning needs of students. And then this slide here with my old eyes, you can see that the majority of the subset here for OE deals with safety. 2 of them deal with safety, and the other 5 deal with the learning environment. And so I think you all have an access to that and hopefully can see it better than I can from where I'm standing. Oh. Okay. And obviously open for questions.
Director Yoakum.
Thank you for bringing this back. And yes, I know that this has been on the top of our mind, but getting back to it, appreciate that, and I'm excited for engagement that the student reps will have as well, that they're just also now kind of finding out about. So tune in later. I guess questions, and I believe this was a study session that I was out for. Imagine that. I believe I was out sick, but I had gone through and I had watched the video back in January and had taken some detailed notes. And I'm just curious, a few of the notes I did send out to everybody, to all the board directors tonight, of just kind of recapping some of the discussions that were had with some of these sub-policies. And so I know that we've had discussions around this, and I'm wondering, is it worth it to kind of go back and look at what we discussed? Or it's more of looking at the board of do we have this conversation now about changing one of the words in the policy? Is that kind of what we're looking to do? Now I'm getting the head nod, yes. Okay. I'm trying to pull up. Do you want me to go through what I had, or yes? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so if we start with the preamble, is there a way to go back to that? I know that there was, again, discussion around the meaning of support student behavior, and I know that Johnny Fu was in attendance at that meeting, and a lot of what he discussed was this pro-social behaviors. I don't know if that's worth that to mention there, but it does come up later in some of the sub-policies where we talk about behaviors. And what was the other one? I think it was in 10.4, where it talks about environments, understanding and supporting appropriate student behavior. And so again, it was this mention of behavior that comes up. And do we kind of explore what was meant by that? I don't know, I can go into all these details. President Guthrie, is there a way we do this? Just go one by one by one? Okay. If you pull up the email too, it was kind of just those pieces that I could talk through. Are you looking at it? Okay.
Sorry, can I ask a question? It would be so yes, let's just work through all of it. That's okay? Okay. I'd like to go through each of these and have, particularly since I didn't remember that you weren't there, but I'd like to have the benefit of your thoughts on this too before we adopt it. So on the preamble, is there a concept, is there specific language or a concept that you identify that is missing?
No, it was more, this was discussed, and I didn't know if it was a discussion of we wanted something changed in that, and so I kind of just wanted to bring that back up. If it's like, no, yeah, we keep it the way it is. I just know that Johnny had brought up that word, that pro-social behaviors. Is it worth it to look at changing the language or keeping it support pro-social student behavior? I don't know. I would love to hear thoughts, and if you can recall from that. And that's the things I don't know if the information that was presented at that meeting, was that taken back? And then it was sort of like, no, we're just gonna keep it the same way. That's more of, I'm trying to figure out, like, from that meeting, was it determined the best route forward is just thank you for your feedback and we think this is the best way forward? I guess that's more what I'm trying to ask. Or was it we didn't get around to changing some of these words, so now we need to do that again? I guess that's more what I'm asking.
I won't try and recreate history. And to be honest with you, I don't recall if we sat down and went through line by line. But what I do hear you saying is you'd rather have like a positive reference to our students versus a possible connotation that maybe comes alongside of just the reference of student behavior, because it possibly implies something. Yeah. And so are we building towards something, or are we responding to something? I think that's what I hear you referencing.
Dr. Holman?
Yeah.
Too, I think we also discussed that part of the governance process too is the work that you'll do in terms of interpreting this language, and that's part of that process as well. That might get it, because when I looked at a lot of the comments that you had shared back out, many of them felt like they could also fall on the superintendent interpretation.
And I guess that's what I'm kind of asking, is tonight to, I kind of want to know more, I guess, that backstory of when you left that study session, what happened from all that information that was presented. Was it like, we'll take that in, and tonight we're going to give you the same thing that we gave to you at the study session? Meaning you've already thought through all of that, and you think it's best suited that that information comes in the interpretation and the indicators. I think it's more of, do we need to do that again, or that's been done and I'm not aware of that. Does that make sense?
It does. Okay. And sometimes our conversations talk around topics rather than give direction or feedback. I think we felt that this represented generally the board's conversation, and so I think that's why it is presented as was presented at the study session.
And tonight we're doing a first reading.
A first reading. So if there's
feedback, when it comes back for second reading, and adoption, that can be incorporated.
Correct.
Yep.
Director Stewart.
I'm failing to see where it's a negative in supporting student behavior. I don't think we'd ever support bad behavior, to be quite frank. If we did, I think it'd be a first. Just an observation.
James?
I think I don't remember if I've read this before. I think I have, but just reading it again, my initial thoughts were also to Director Yoakum's point of supporting student behavior. I think I also kind of read back on that line, because I think you can't really naively say support good student behavior. I think because if you say good, well, what's good student behavior? And you can't say, well, so I honestly think what Director Yoakum said earlier about saying something about I think he said pro-social.
Yeah, that was the language that was used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think some sort of support a certain type of student behavior would be helpful, but I also agree that in the interpretation, you're going to clarify that means a certain type of social student behavior, not just bad student behavior or all student behavior. So, yeah.
Director Liberty?
Okay, so an overall comment. I agree. What's here presented to the board for first reading does at least generally or almost wholly reflect my interest in adopting a policy. And I agree. I actually would like to add in prosocial before behavior in the preamble here. I do think for a lot of these where Director Yoakum may tonight flag additional discussion, I think that can be worked in on the interpretation indicators. I can't quite put my finger on why I think the preamble we should be a little more specific, but just, I guess we don't, you do interpret the preamble, right? Maybe. I'm not actually certain that we do that. So maybe that's why. Okay, so when it comes back for second reading, I would like it to have the pro-social in front of behavior, because that's also sort of consistent with overall like how we're thinking about the changes to this policy as well. So thank you for calling that out.
I would also, like to call out pro-social behavior. I think it's more than an interpretation. It really is for me, it's a deeply held value that the learning environment contributes to student behavior positively or negatively, and recognizing that if a student is eloping school, as an example. That is a student behavior. That is not a problem with the student. I would guess most of the time there's something about that learning environment that is making that student feel that the best option for them is to physically remove themselves from that environment. Recognizing that is a learning environment problem and not a student problem is something that I deeply believe in, and I think it is really important to be clear about that, because that's really what this policy is about. It's about recognizing the environment that we're building for our students, and creating an environment that allows them to show up as their best selves. And so making that really clear that when we talk about supporting student behavior, we're talking about that through the environment and not trying to change who our students are. I hope that makes sense, and I think that's part of what we're struggling to articulate here, but that maybe that brings clarity. I don't know. Director Yoakum.
That was nicely said. Would you mind if we jump to 10.4, because it still talks, this is more of the one that also touches on that, supporting appropriate student behavior, if we're still discussing that. Again, do we mention that pro-social behavior? There was, and I'll just read, there was discussion around needing more than an understanding of behavior, but rather what drives pro or con social behavior. Learning environments are designed to support pro-social behavior, but does that mean there's an understanding? Anyway, those were some of the conversations that I think came up. Just kind of like, I just wanted to put that out there to kind of refresh what were we talking about. But I think changing that wording as well in 10.4 to match the preamble.
I know you didn't mean this, but I also like to put it in the space as we're talking about these things. When we're saying that the learning environment causes, we have some of our best educators who have students elope, and so we're not talking about educators, because some of the most complex needs are student elopement, and many of our educators, they work so hard, and I know you weren't, and I just wanted to put it in the space. And I don't know how many of our teachers are watching right now, but it is such a complex, how you, because a lot of times it takes many professionals to be able to even identify what in the learning environment is causing. And so I just wanted to put that in the space because I know you didn't mean that. So.
Director Yoakum.
Just going to speak to that as well. I feel like this in combination with OE3 and that the engagement, I feel, I'm curious to see as that engagement with families and learning about students helps improve this, right? I'm curious to see if there's connection there. Just a comment.
Are there other ways we're referencing students in this policy that the board would want to consider differently? And I don't have an example. How we talk about students really does demonstrate values.
Director Yocum?
Am I taking away what you want to say though too? And I don't know if this is students, but I'm looking at 10.5 where we're really looking at, I think as Matt has suggested, the sub-policy would be titled, like the heading of educational specifications. But I feel like we look at our students as just being able to accessibly access their learning, that we're looking at students that if they can just be a part of the classroom, that's good. Meaning like they just have that access, good enough. But I think it becomes more about designing that environment for engagement as well. So I don't know if that's maybe more of a stretch, but I think students can safely and accessibly access their learning. That seems that we're not really pushing enough for for all students to be engaged in that learning, just accessing it. That would maybe be the only comment I would have on that.
Suniri?
I had a question on 10.1. I'm not sure if like maybe this was considered and not like put into 10.1 for a reason, but I was wondering if like it says that we want to cultivate learning environments that exhibit positive relationships between student and staff, but I also feel that like going back to the pro-social behavior, we want positive peer-to-peer relationships as well, and I feel like that's almost more important, or needs more focus usually than positive student and staff relationships.
Director Liberty.
I was just saying, it's very insightful. Thank you. I agree.
Director Yocum.
I was going to say, and that was a huge discussion that was had on that topic. And I'm trying to, James actually brought it up.
I was going to say, I remember talking about this because the old language actually did include student to student and student to staff, except that language was a little bit confusing. I think I brought that up. I remember this. But yeah, I'd also like to see peer-to-peer included somehow, which is hard, I think, because in the old language, it was included, but I think it was hard to comprehend is what I remember.
Potential change there could be between students and with staff.
And there was mention, Johnny had mentioned something that individuals within the learning or the school environment, it could mean parents and community members as well. He said that the spirit is positive interactions across the board. But then again, I don't know if that necessarily fits in here. That was discussed. So, I think of like the environment and the learning environment, and think of, curriculum nights, inviting families into that learning environment. Just rehashing my notes here to share.
Can we?
Suniri.
Thank you. Sorry. I don't know if this is just me, but I just wanted to bring it up because maybe if I don't fully understand it, then other students reading it might not. But I think 10.7 is just really like content heavy, so I had to read through it a few times to get what I was trying to say. So I had two questions. So what does the importance for clear standards for student success mean? Like what exactly is a clear standard for student success? Does that mean like a teacher should have like a clear standard as in what mastery of the content looks like, or is it having a clear standard for an individual student, like that student should grow in overall content mastery? I'm just like not exactly sure what that means.
I think you've actually nailed it with your first interpretation there, which is, so the board had expressed an interest, and a lot of the conversations were around how does assessing and reporting on student learning interact with the student learning environment and the student experience. And so I believe what the board would be trying to do here is to articulate some expectations around the clarity of what does success look like in this classroom, so that such that students are able to successfully navigate it in the same way that they might be able to successfully navigate classroom routines and behaviors and things like that.
Okay, and then I just had another question for 10.7. It's just like I was a little confused what timely constructive feedback and assessing and grading practices mean. So is this for like the teachers are providing feedback to the students in a timely manner, or is this about like creating communication systems where like establishing ways for students to give constructive feedback on how like on assessment practices in the classroom? I was just wondering if 10.7 could maybe be split up or reworded in a way where maybe it's like a little more accessible to understand exactly what it means. That might just be me though, so.
Director Yocum?
I was looking at 10.7. Oh, no. Do you want to go? Are you on 10.7? Okay, sorry. Always go first.
Could we, sorry, interject real quick. Could we just go sub-policy by sub-policy? I'm like ping-ponging around here. So could we just stay on 10.7? And okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say that I feel like this policy is saying that we expect that there are administrative policies, correct, with all of these things. Just so I know, does that mean that if you're in compliance, that there are administrative policies? Is that what that means? Not necessarily effectiveness or how they work, it's just they're there. Okay.
Yes.
James.
Okay, I was also going to bring up like being in compliance, because I think for maybe like less than 10.7, I think it might be combining a lot of different, I guess it's still administrative policies, but I think it's combining a lot of different aspects. And so if you're doing your compliance report and you're looking at like data, for example, will you have to like I feel like you're going to have to get data on many different parts that don't really relate but are in the same policy because of 10.7. And I don't know how that would work, but I think what Suneri brought up earlier about splitting it might be effective, but at the same time, if they're all administrative policies, I don't know. That's just a like suggestion that I have.
So what's interesting about this board's governance process is they can direct the superintendent to do anything they want, and they can do that in their policies. And so the board can reach as far into administration as they want, and then the board becomes accountable for it. And that's why the relationship is always this conversation around what is it that the board expects, and how does the board put kind of parameters rather than saying, go do this, because then I can just go do that thing, check the box, and I've met compliance. And so 10.7 is the board's way of saying, draft an administrative policy, which is the compliance aspect, but the policy has to then incorporate some of these other components. So what monitoring won't do is report back on all of those components. It'll report back on, we actually have a policy in place that aligns with the board's values. So it's a way that the board can kind of go beyond what they typically do in terms of expectations without then being responsible for the day-to-day implementation of it. So the compliance is, do you have a policy that meets all of these areas? And I agree, rewording it a bit, because if people don't understand what it says, then it's not really helpful, nor does it articulate the board's values. But so it's an interesting sub-policy of which we don't have many like this, or that the board doesn't have many like this.
Okay, so just to clarify, 10.7 is a policy telling the superintendent to establish a policy.
Correct.
It's not a policy telling like the superintendent to like directly do anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like having a meeting to plan for a meeting.
Director LaLiberty.
So normally I don't like policies like this that are like very prescriptive and like immediate as well. Here, I do for right now. I am comfortable with, and I would actually like OE 10.7 to be this prescriptive and direct the superintendent to go establish these administrative policies, because we know, hearing from the community and from our students, like these are immediate concerns and interests that we, I think, need to resolve. And I want to flag this one for amendment in like probably pretty soon, so that it just captures the, ensure, and then we could condense it down to something more higher values based. Right now, I do want a very prescriptive policy as a board member. And typically, I don't think those are the best policies, the best drafting of policies, I guess.
Director Stewart?
When you're finished with 10 point, whatever you're at, I have another one I'd like to address, but I don't want to bounce around a ping pong.
So I'm actually unclear. I'm kind of unclear what the rest of the other people on the board are wanting with 10.7. And I'd kind of like to hear.
Director Yoakum?
I am in agreement with what you said.
James?
I also agree with what Director Lillibree said. But yeah, I was going to ask, still on 10.7, is there a certain reason why we picked these four things to focus on? Because I feel like it's a little bit like, yeah, like, is there a reason why we focus on these four instead of another four, I guess?
I would say these are the things the board has received consistent feedback around. And so in response to that feedback, and I'm talking years of feedback, not just they got an email one day and all of a sudden that framed the issue for them. This is, I would say, kind of long-standing feedback that they've received. And so just wanting to be clear about that expectation that's outlined here.
And I think specifically some of the feedback has been around, I agree that this wording is not clear, but I'm trying to refresh my memory. Some of it is around grading practices, so different systems are, how heavily tests are weighted versus homework, and also some of the consistency. I recall some conversations about consistency across districts. So if a student, does something in AP chemistry at Juanita, and if they did that same work in AP chemistry at Eastlake, should they get the same grade? I think actually we can't really guarantee that at this point in time, and I don't say that with any judgment. Just sort of that's a fact of where we're at, and so some of the like around clear standards for student success, consistent monitoring of student learning. That's, I think, fancy language for trying to get at some of those concerns. Yeah, and to answer Director Lillibree's question, I agree. I am comfortable with this right now because some of those details I don't personally feel, like the value judgment on the AP chemistry example that I just gave. I don't. I honestly don't feel qualified to really have a perspective on that right now, and so I would like to see staff discuss that, come forward with some sort of policy, which, to Director Lillibree's point, we may incorporate into board policy at a later date. But at this point in time, I don't feel that I could put forward policy language that would be helpful or even like good. And so I actually like this approach as a stopgap as we explore this space a little bit more, very much in conjunction with staff, because that's where a lot of this expertise does lie. I think James, then Suniri.
It's like a small thing, but like you said something about AP chemistry and not having like expertise. So as a student who was in AP chemistry this year, I've heard numerous times from my friends from Redmond High School, and like my like group of like my like scale is like very off. So I don't want to speak on behalf of every single high school student, but I have seen that people from other schools will say, this school is easier in AP chemistry, this school is like way harder. And can I say what schools? Okay. No naming schools? No, sorry. But yes, I see some students complaining about the inconsistency. But again, my scale is very small.
Suniri.
Okay, I'm sorry to ask another clarifying question on 10.7. So I know James asked because we originally thought that it was not about just establishing the policy, but it was about the superintendent doing those things that would there be data on if it's working to monitor student learning and stuff. So I know that you would be in compliance by just establishing the policy, but is there data that we're collecting to show that the policy is working? And then if there is, who would that be seen by? Would that be presented to the board, or would that just go to you and then you would amend the policy? Or who exactly is accountable for making sure the policy actually has an effect further than just establishing it?
A proficient superintendent knows to keep their board informed of the things they're interested in. So it may not come through monitoring, but it would come through other ways. One of the things I'm going to talk about in my superintendent's report is some of the committee work we're doing, and one of those is related to secondary grading in response to this. And so it's keeping the board apprised and the four of you apprised of the work that we're doing, because it's also interesting to hear your perspectives on the things we think we know, and then you help frame that for us and help us to think about issues differently.
Have we beaten 10.7's death? For now, at least. Director Stewart, you had another sub-policy you wanted to look at.
Yes, 10.5, blame it on the writer in me, but excessively access, I think readily, easily, successfully. It's just, one, redundant, and two, I don't know how in the hell you do it. But again, blame it on the writer in me. It just...
Director Yoakum.
Somebody had mentioned purposefully. I don't know if that would be an addition, because I do feel that accessible, I don't know if access means accessible, but purposefully, because then I think it becomes, what I had written, just more than just accessibility, but it becomes designing for engagement as well.
Sorry, so that would be in place of the word accessibly in the policy. Is that the idea?
What do you think? I guess that's what I was saying. Yeah. Unless both words are needed, or access is the accessibility piece. I don't know.
Can we page Mr. Roche and get his thesaurus out, for God's sake?
Any other comments? So taking another look at the wording for 10.5, and yeah, I agree with Director Yoakum too, that maybe looking at the word access, because I think the board's values around a deeper level of engagement than just accessing.
Yes.
But yes, resolving that, I know it drives me nuts too. The repetition there in that language, but also getting more accurately at what the board's value really is.
I agree with that.
Anything else on 10.5? Or are there other sub-policies that we want to look at the language for? Director Yoakum.
I was going to say 10.2, just to kind of go off of that as well, because one thing that you had commented on back in December was there are a lot of learnings. Ensure a culture of learning by teaching effective learning strategies. So that was a conversation that was had. And I don't know if it's fine or if that is also bothersome with the many learnings.
I can. It's not poetry, but I can understand. When I look, I was chuckling at that too. But I can actually I understand what that's trying to say, and that to me is that's half the battle with these. I don't know. I'm fine with it.
If I remember correctly, we would need to blame Charlotte Charlotte Danielson for that language. Am I remembering that correctly?
That is correct. That's for Danielson.
James.
Wait, are we done with 10-2? Oh, you can talk about 10-2 then.
I don't know if this is a stupid question, but who are we teaching the like effective learning strategies to? Is it the students or the teachers, or is there like even a need to specify?
It's a policy focused on students, and so it would be referencing students. And that's a fine question to ask.
How is this different than OE 11? And I think I have in here like 11.6, which is about the instructional program. Accommodates the different learning styles of students. And is there a difference, or is it they go together?
And there's going to be overlap. So I would say my guess is there could be some data that's maybe consistent between the two, and that is something we've tried to avoid. And so maybe as we go to monitor it, we would find maybe there's something different we're looking for here.
Director Yocum, are we still on 10.2?
I am done with 10.2, so I will stop until the next one. But go to the next one. It was about Danielson as well. It was 10.1, and we were talking about environments that exhibit positive relationships. I know we just talked about the students and staff piece, but there was discussion over the word exhibit versus cultivate, and I think Dr. Rose, you had mentioned that cultivate comes from, that word is in Danielson, so potentially changing exhibit to cultivate positive relationships rather than, so it's the act of doing rather than the result of it.
So is your recommendation to have it read, ensure learning environments cultivate positive relationships?
I don't think, not quite that. Ensure learning environment, I think you missed a word there. Ensure learning environments that cultivate positive relationships.
But you,
10.1, sorry.
Yeah, but you don't want cultivation and cultivate in the same sentence.
Sorry, no. Ensure the cultivation of learning environments that, I see what you're saying. I didn't catch that. Yeah, so it's probably fine.
I think Dr. Rose
She slowly speaks up.
She's been.
Yeah.
I'm remembering the answer to, or a perspective on the question you asked, Director Yocum, about why, about the overlap between OE11 and OE10. Our discussion, or the discussion, was that grades really impact how students feel. Assessment practices dramatically impact students' experience in a classroom. And that we saw that parallel in some other districts where they included assessing and grading as part of the overall learning environment, separate from the academic program.
Thank you.
James.
If we're done with 10.1, maybe?
Can we stay on 10.1 for just another minute? Because I don't know that we have clear direction. Are we good with the current language, which incorporates cultivation in the cultivation of learning environments, or do we want to somehow reword that to move cultivate specific to positive relationships? Suniri?
Well, if you're cultivating the learning environment that exhibits the relationship, then wouldn't you have to cultivate the relationship just by, like, you know, yeah, like you can't cultivate the learning environment without cultivating the relationship. So I feel like it kind of transfers over, right?
Oh, that's good. I buy it.
So yeah, I missed the cultivate at the beginning and was focused on the exhibit. And I think the exhibit is the result of cultivating that learning environment. So thank you for letting me work through that. And thank you.
Okay, so I think we can close on 10.1 with keeping the current language. But thank you for that conversation. That's why we're here, and thank you everybody for working through this too. This is bringing back policy language that we haven't looked at for a while, and remembering conversations. And I know it's a little awkward, but just thank you everybody for continuing to engage with this. James, what's your next sub-policy?
I actually wanted to, can we reopen 10.1 again? I wanted to ask, if that's okay, about culturally responsive practices and like what that's supposed to mean.
For us, culturally responsive practices has to do with various frameworks. So Dr. Zarita Hammond, for example, the Danielson framework, the AWSP framework, the state of Washington also posts standards for educators called CCDEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So all of the amalgamum of those research-based practices are things that as a district we've adopted and use as part of our professional development for teachers, for our leaders, and other non-certificated staff as well.
It's the idea that students' culture can support learning, and the idea that as educators, the more we understand our students, their backgrounds, their experience, their culture, that translates directly into success in the classroom. And so culturally responsive practices is a whole body of work, which really boils down to learning to understand the students that are in your classroom. And it's more complex than that, but that's like the simplest way to put it.
And I'm assuming this is the language that they use with all those like frameworks and what they put. Okay, then yeah, that's good. What I want to talk about initially was like the old OE10, so the old policies, and I agree with like what we removed and what we added. I think these new policies are much better than the old ones, but I'm wondering for like the old OE4, which was like about confidential student information, or maybe like volunteers who can have unsupervised contact with students, or any of these that we removed and didn't reword. Where do those fit? Because I don't think they fit in OE10, and I agree with removing them, but I think those are still necessary and important, I guess, with how, like, I think we should protect confidential student information. And so I'm wondering if it's put somewhere else.
So a couple things, and I don't have OE3 pulled up in front of me, but I think some of those pieces possibly may have gone to OE3. Also, as the board the board adopts policy and modifies policy, and it's not static. And so as the board sees possibly something that needs their direct attention and focus, they may add that to their policies. We have probably one of the best volunteer screening processes of any district that I know. And I've asked many of my colleagues about what they have. And so for the board to spend time monitoring that, it's not of high value because we have one of the best processes already. So it would just be reporting, we're really great and we have a great system. And do you know what I mean? And so it's not that it's not a value, but there's so many things that to run a district that the board isn't monitoring. So it's for them, it's finding what are the things that provide the greatest look into, in this situation, the student environment and treatment of students, that the data that comes back to them helps them evaluate their values. That data doesn't really help them evaluate their values right now because we've already, I would say we've reached a place where it would just be the same data year over year over year, and it has been. So I guess that's one response, and I think in OE3 we transferred some of the
yeah, so we have 3 different board policy areas that might speak to those. One is in OE4, which talks about the expectations that the board has for us employing. And when we consider volunteers in that context, I would say that those processes, some of those processes apply. Operational expectation 1, also the board holds the superintendent accountable for following the law. And so when we think about student privacy, there are federal laws that are very strict and govern those. And so, and then in addition to some of the changes that we made with OE3 that Dr. Holman mentioned.
Wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think James was referring to the old 10.3, not like OE3 as a whole. And then I think the new 10.6 just covers that in like a more overarching way, because it just says like promote a culture of safety with comprehensive practices of prevention and intervention. So I'm assuming like a comprehensive safety practice would be protecting confidential information and volunteer stuff. But it's just like not laid out, I guess, in the way it was before.
Do we have admin policy too around volunteers? I guess it would be enshrined somewhere there. Yeah. As someone who was denied access to their child's classroom due to their volunteer status having expired, I will confirm the stringent nature of the volunteer background check policy. Director Yoakum, did you have something? Oh, no, sorry. So that was kind of looking at some of the previous policy language. Is there anything else on that, in that vein of anything that we sort of haven't brought forward into this current draft that anybody wanted to bring up? Any other sub-policy proposals that we wanted to look at? I think we've covered most of them at this point. Anything, Dr. Holman, do you have any clarifying questions, or is that helpful for bringing back we can talk about a second read or sort of what the next steps are, I think offline. Yeah, I think we're good on this. Like I said, thank you everybody for engaging. It's tough to bring this back and sort of remember the conversations that we had. But this is obviously going to be a really key policy for us throughout the course of this school year. It's a big thing on our work plan. So I appreciate Dr. Holman and staff bringing this back and allowing us to work through some of this so that we're sort of all in the same place moving forward.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is a superintendent's interpretation and indicators of compliance for OE 11 instructional program. This is a first reading. Dr. Holman.
So last year, or I guess we're still in last year, aren't we? When we monitored OE 11 this last school year, the board asked and had extensive conversation about 11.8 and really the reference and how the board was referencing the term innovation or innovative. And we had a discussion at that time around 11.8, and the board asked me to bring back new language. And so this language was adopted at our last meeting in June, I believe. June 23rd, I believe this language was adopted. And so tonight I'm bringing back draft interpretation and indicators of compliance. And I'll be honest, it was easier to draft policy language than to interpret it and identify indicators. And so, again, this is draft. It's a first reading, and after conversation, we can decide if we want to bring this back for action at the September 15th meeting or if we need some additional work. And so the policy language the board adopted states continuously improve programs and services by leveraging innovative practices and tools that prepare students to thrive in a dynamic and evolving world. And To interpret that, I interpret continuously improve programs and services to mean that the district engages in an ongoing systematic process of evaluating, refining, and expanding academic programs, student services, and operational supports to ensure they meet the current and emerging needs of all students. I interpret by leveraging innovative practices and tools to mean the district actively seeks, pilots, and implements instructional methods, technologies, and organizational frameworks that are research-based or evidence-informed, while also encouraging creative problem-solving and adaptive thinking by staff. Innovations means aim to enhance equity, increase engagement, and improve effectiveness compared to previous approaches. I interpret that prepare students to thrive in a dynamic and evolving world to mean that the district equips every student with the knowledge, skills, and dispositions necessary to demonstrate perseverance, model adaptability, have agency, demonstrate curiosity, and experience and offer acceptance. You'll note that those are the 5 mindsets of our profile. Preparation includes success in diverse post-secondary pathways such as college, career, service, apprenticeship, and in community life. Do you want me to pause there and see if there's any questions about my interpretation, or should I move into indicators and we can talk about the whole?
Okay.
Director Liberty?
So I'm just going back and remembering how we agreed, like for our governance model, how we agreed here. I just want to, our job's not to wordsmith and tell you word for word. It's whether you've reasonably interpreted the policy, and I think you reasonably interpreted the policy.
Director Yoakum.
Can you explain to me why it is expanding academic programs when we have improved programs? Why academic programs is what's listed?
So there's 3 things there that I reference: academic programs, student services, and operational supports. As I was thinking through what are the areas that we evaluate and work to improve, those seem to be the 3 areas that are broadly what we would evaluate and improve. And so that's why I felt like those 3 things combined, as opposed to any one of them individually, kind of defines the overall programs and services. Are you thinking non-academic programs such as athletics, activities, intramurals, clubs, those kinds of things as well?
Yeah, that programs, the only programs that, because it says improved programs and services. So we look at, when we say programs, you're saying it's just the academic is kind of how I read it. So I just want to make sure that we're all interpreting it the same way. And services are student services. I mean, that does make sense to me. And it was just more of, what else could programs be?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Suniri.
I was just wondering in the last sentence, like, I know earlier today when we were talking about how future ready felt outdated because we were specifying what post-secondary pathways are, and then we're specifying again, like maybe if you just added an et cetera at the end or just removed it entirely. I don't know if that would be like more in line with what we're trying to revise our mission and vision to be, or not. I don't know.
Any other feedback on the interpretation, or can we move on to indicators? Let's move on and take a look at the indicators.
Sorry, I had to jot that note down. Thank you. Again, the interpretation was easier than the indicators. And so we're progressively getting more complex. So indicators of compliance, evidence of program adjustments, enhancements, or expansions based on evaluation, evidence that improvement processes are inclusive of stakeholder input, evidence that improvement processes consider the needs of historically underserved populations, documentation of new instructional practices, tools, or service models piloted and evaluated during the reporting period, demonstrated alignment of adopted innovations with research-based best practices and strategic commitments, student, family, and staff data reflecting perceptions of preparedness for post-secondary pathways, and finally, examples of district adjustments to program services or tools in response to changes in technology, workforce needs, educational research, or societal conditions.
James.
I think for the first one, and I guess for the last one too, it's I think based off of like you want to see change, but I think sometimes, you know, maybe you don't want to change based off the evaluation. Like maybe you evaluate it and there are no adjustments, and I'm just wondering, is that included? Because what I don't, I guess, want to happen is, you know, we evaluate it and we say that nothing should change, but we still change it just so we can be in compliance, or so we can give examples of the district adjustments. And I think that's not the intended goal.
Thank you. Yep.
Suniri.
I just had a question what strategic commitment means. Like, I get that, I get what it means for it to be, like, the innovations to be in alignment with research-based best practices, but I don't know what it means to be in alignment with the strategic commitment.
And so in my superintendent's report, I'll talk about our strategic framework, which as part of our strategic framework, we have 4 public commitments that we're making. And so as I'm thinking about what's the language that we're using and adopting, you heard me say when I was reading my interpretation that this part here, where'd it go? Anyways, I referenced that these were the mindsets of our profile. That's part of our strategic framework as well. So it's trying to create alignment. And so our commitments are part of our strategic framework as well. Okay, so it's just the commitments of the strategic. Yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
James.
Sorry, still on the first one, maybe I missed it, but is there an indicator that can judge how good the evaluation is? I guess good is like a bad adjective, but like how comprehensive it is. Because I think, especially now with like so much new technology, and I think this is like innovation, technology is like, right now we're kind of living in that sort of wave. And so I feel like an evaluation should be comprehensive, but couldn't you argue that the evaluation here could just be, you know, Google searching it, oh, that's my evaluation, okay, I'm not gonna do anything, or something of the sort. I think I want to see some way to be accountable for having a comprehensive evaluation, and that we can show community members that this is our evaluation, or at least some sort of way to ensure that.
Others?
Director Yocum?
Yeah, I think I'm still stuck on programs and services, and I know this is OE 11, so it's the instructional program, or the instructional piece of it. But I think when I go to the website and I look at there's programs and then there's services, I think I guess I'm trying to look at, okay, let me look at the website. Like when you talk about programs, is it choice schools? Is it ML? Like how we separate programs versus services to the community? Is that kind of what we're trying to do here? Or we're trying to pull out, like it's just purely the instructional academic piece of it. So I almost feel like defining that, the program services. but maybe that's just me not looking at the whole policy right now. So I'm trying to pull that up.
So this is the academic program, the instructional program.
So is it, so when you say program, like what are you, we said, okay.
Yes.
When we say program,
yeah.
yes. Sorry. So program adjustments, is that just, I almost feel like I need an example. Like, are we talking about highly capable programming? Because that is instruction. Are we just talking about pure, like, content academics? Like, I mean, can you give me an example of, like, the programs when you say evidence of program adjustments? Like, what programs would be adjusted?
So right now we're going through an extensive process to identify new elementary literacy curriculum. In terms of the academics, that's the program of literacy for our students. So as I think about what would evidence be of evaluation, and that's a relatively in-depth evaluation process for that program. Highly capable could be a program. And so it's...
So it's highly capable, is it an academic program? Is
would-
that,
I
or is
would-
it like the whole program, that it's not just academics, right? It's, I guess I'm just stuck on that word, I know. Sorry.
Is that just the nuance of everything has multiple components to it?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to figure out when we're looking at those indicators, like what programs can we expect to see that there's been thought through adjustments or enhancements or expansions? Like what programs will those be?
Mhm.
Are they purely curriculum adoption, or is it the whole program of like choice schools? You know, and that, is it gifted programs? So that's...
I think it's yes to all of that.
Okay.
And you don't do those evaluations and possible adjustments every year. And so it's not that every year, I think another piece to this is, and I believe that's a different policy area in OE11, is the cycle of evaluation, if I remember correctly, related to programs. I actually just have 11.8 on this document, so I don't have the whole policy pulled up. Those probably tie in together, because you think about our highly capable program. You know, we've been looking at those programs and services for the last 2 to 3 years, and just for use of resources at a minimum, you only can do that so often. I think about our safety net program. Like, we have reviewed and evaluated that, in my knowledge, probably specifically 2 times, where we did a deep dive into that as a program, the staffing, the outcomes, who's being served, like all of those pieces. So
yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at the main policy, and it's the interpretation of program of instruction to mean, and so you lay it out. But it's not just academics, right? There are some other pieces there.
Yeah.
So if I just look at that and we use that to define program in there. Thank you for that.
Any other feedback on the indicators? Just one comment I'll make, because Dr. Holman and I were talking last week about AI literacy and where that might show up in board policies. And as I'm reading through this, I'm sort of testing, not that it needs to be explicit, that specific thing needs to be called out, but I think that's a good example as we're looking at this of how board policy might influence, or I would expect that to be brought forward as once that work is done, that would be brought forward as evidence in here. And so just sort of making sure that these indicators, I could see them giving you space to talk about that work as part of monitoring in the future. All right, so we will bring that back, I guess, for a second reading and adoption, probably at the next board meeting. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Holman.
Okay. And so the board saw in the on the agenda that tonight was an update of our the work groups related to our strategic framework. Also just wanted to re-ground us in our strategic framework. It is a little bit different than what many school districts adopt. It's not a strategic plan. It doesn't have a list of the 40 things that we're going to accomplish by X date. The hope is that this is a framework that helps ground all of us in what we're doing, what we're about, decision-making, values as an organization. And so this truly did help ground our work with our district leadership team, our administrators, as we spent, I think it was 7 days with them, 6 days with them over the first 2 weeks in August, and really made meaningful connections to the values, the commitments, and the concept that we truly are striving for exceptional experiences for each of our learners here in Lake Washington. And so our communications department actually had some little stickers, so you'll start seeing those on the back of laptops here soon. And so there we go. And so part of our strategic framework are 4 commitments that are large and encompassing. It's not absolutely everything we do as an organization, but they're commitments to what we're striving for. First commitment is to strive for equitable and just systems. Our work and commitment related to equity, those furthest from educational justice, starts with the work we do in policy. And that truly does lead the organization. If we never codify our work related to our systems and policy, then it will occur for a period of time, and then it will go away when the people go away. And so, and then how that work translates all the way down to interactions with students individually and collectively. Commitment 1 is truly our commitment to equity as a system. Commitment 2 is to have inclusive and rigorous learning, both learning of our students and our learning environments. Commitment 3 is integrated sustainability. I continue to share anytime I talk about this commitment. Our board has adopted policy related to sustainability. We've been a leader in resource conservation management for many years, and now it's time to ensure that we have consistency in application of what we know are practices that lead to sustainability and resource conservation in our schools and in our district, and to truly infuse this into all of our work. Commitment 4 is operational excellence, and knowing that we're a large employer, and we employ 4,500 individuals. We serve 30,000 students each day. And the operations of our school district actually translates to better outcomes in the classroom. And I say that because I can tell you, if we have operational systems that create just noise and messiness for our staff, they have to pay attention to that rather than their core work of working with our students. And that goes for all of our staff, teaching staff, our staff we heard from this evening. It's so important that we continue to work towards excellence in all of our operations. These values have been drawn from the board's policies, inputs through our student profile process, surveys, and they truly do resonate and speak to what we're about as a school district. And then our student profile. I don't have the entire profile here, but I did bring up the mindsets that we believe create future-ready students. We want our students to leave our system with these mindsets because we truly believe that they transcend and can help them be successful in many, many settings. The mindset of perseverance, adaptability, agency, or being able to make decisions for oneself, being curious, such an important skill for our students to have, because if you're curious, you're going to want to understand someone's perspective, someone's experience. You're going to ask deep questions about problems. You're not just going to take things on face value. So it's such an important skill. And then the concept of acceptance. Our students should understand acceptance from the receiving standpoint and the giving standpoint. And so these are mindsets that we believe transcend so much of what we do. As we've been thinking about our key performance indicators, you saw this as a grid of, 12 things previously. Current thinking around our KPIs is that we have 4 KPIs. All students literate, all students successful in mathematics, all students future ready, adults and systems supporting future readiness. And then there's data elements that will go underneath that, but those truly are the indicators that we believe will help us to understand our work as an organization. We also know that the board has very similar results, outcomes that you're thinking about for our students as well. And then the piece that I really wanted to talk about tonight was how we're going to be engaging with our stakeholders, because the strategic framework wasn't about getting 60, 70, 100 people together to think about, okay, what do we want to accomplish? But we also know that partnering with our community in this work is really important. So just want to share a few pieces. I have 3 different kind of work groups that I want to talk about tonight. So a couple of work groups or committees that are directly connected to really the adoption of the strategic framework. One is a work group that we talked about in our study session tonight, the kind of the revisioning or redevelopment of our mission and vision as an organization. I'm going to be leading that. We've had a racial equity analysis tool that has been in place. Well, it lives on our website, and I'm just not sure how often it gets used. I mean, just to be completely transparent. And as we think about policy level changes, adopting a framework to help all of us at all levels of the organization think about our mindset, our considerations related to equity and the decisions we're making, the actions we're taking, and how an equity analysis tool can actually help you think through that work, think deeply about whose voice isn't present, who's not here giving feedback or input, what perspective do we need to take to understand this. And so Associate Superintendent Ortega will partner with our Equity Advisory Committee. He's going to do some additional recruitment for that group to make sure that that is work that we get done this year. I just think it's such an important component to have as we're committing to equitable and just systems. The next work group is not our Inclusion Advisory Committee. And as we were talking about the development of a definition of inclusive schools, what we didn't want to do is walk away from the work that inclusion advisory had started. And so we're going to continue our inclusion advisory as a standing work group, but we're going to bring together an inclusive schools work group. And the board asked me a question and then said, maybe think about it. And so I thought about it. And my team said, you gave the wrong answer. And so I reflected on, what are inclusive schools? Inclusive schools are really how are students able to show up in our schools, in our classrooms. That's not just students with disabilities. That's students from, all backgrounds, all walks of life, being able to show up and be present in our schools and be successful. So that work group is going to have a much broader view of what is the definition of inclusive schools. And so Scott and Jen will partner in that work. Again, you can see on the far right-hand side, when are we hoping to have that work done? By spring 2026. Feels pretty ambitious, but that's the current goal today. One of the other pieces you heard me talk about previously was some work related to our student profile, continuing to put definition around our student profile. And we're just calling that our Future Ready work group. We're going to conduct that work in the 26-27 school year. And part of the reason is we think some of this other work actually relates pretty deeply to that work group, and bandwidth and time. That's truly, we have to be thoughtful around that as well. Our high school student experience work group was a work group that started, probably Matt Montebianco in 2015, former associate superintendent. And the most recent iteration was the school start time advisory, and then the last year and a half, our high school day work group. And so Deputy Superintendent Beebe will continue leading that. He was appreciative of that opportunity to continue in that work. They're going to pull some data around two specific elements that are changing this year. One related to the high school common schedule, and two with the adoption of Canvas, just getting some feedback and data around that, because those are two substantive changes that we want to make sure that we're looking at and evaluating. And so those are kind of the two elements there. And then you heard me talk earlier about secondary assessing and assessing practices. And so Dr. Rose is kind of the executive sponsor. Nyla Fritz, Director of Teaching and Learning for Secondary, will lead that work, knowing that that's such an essential part as well. And while my screen is covered, it's covered for you as well. Spring of 2026. Let's see. There we go. Look at that. Then we have a few standing committees that will continue. Our Inclusion Advisory Committee, you heard me reference that, previously led by Deputy Superintendent Gillingham. And as we shifted support for our special education department to really the teaching and learning side of the house, so Scott will partner with Dr. Hitch related to our Inclusion Advisory Committee. We had a levy advisory committee, and I say had because we had our third and what we believe is our final meeting with our levy advisory committee just last week, as we have two levies that will be brought for consideration by the board and potentially on the ballot in February 2026. And so wanted to capture that because it's a standing committee anytime we have a levy to engage with a group of folks that are interested to discuss with us all issues related to levy. And then the next few are ones you're very familiar with. Our sustainability committee, which continues to grow. more and more students keep asking Hannah if they can be on our sustainability committee. So at some point that could be an entire high school's worth of a committee. But we have standing committees for our budget and facility. And then we have 2 curriculum adoptions currently going on. One is early literacy, and the second is secondary math. We also have some internal work groups. So these aren't work groups that are for our external stakeholders, but they're really about internal supports or systems, with sort of one exception. The Respond and Resolve work group is really about receiving, I'll just say, complaints in a coordinated manner, such that we can respond to it and resolve it in a coordinated manner as well. So it's really about the system to receive. And so I know there will be some focus group work related to this with external stakeholders, but it's really about how do we as an organization and system receive that information so that we're responding to it well. We have some work in our human resources department that's currently underway. Matt called it our talent systems, but you can imagine just the from application to hire, that's a large body of work. And while I know we've reduced in size a bit, we're still, as you can see in our HR report tonight, still hiring. Operational efficiency, as we think about operational excellence as a strategic commitment, we're going to do some work with our operational leaders to ensure that there's a consistent mindset and method for how we're evaluating our systems for efficiency, effectiveness, and excellence. And that's work that will be either a book study, bringing in a model to work from, but that work will be done with our operational leaders over the year. And then our workforce well-being, if I could remember the House bill that was related, it's like 13. Anyways, someone in the room knows that they're just not shouting it out for me. But it's an ongoing work group related to our internal staff that was started a couple years back and will continue into the future. So just we will be formally launching our strategic framework. It could be you next year up there. We'll be formally launching our strategic framework through video. Our staff will receive it during their August LEAP time. And the hope is that it truly does it's something that all of us can consider and rally around, because, we have 4,500 employees. Well, we have 4,500 people that are committed to students, and that's what's really cool about working here. So we're also going to publicize and seek participants for our work groups. Some we will publicize for, others we will actually be asking for participation, because it isn't just about who raises their hand, it's about making sure that we actually have representation on our committees in a variety of ways. And so exciting work, appreciate everything that's gone into this. And as our website launches, as videos, I'll be sure to share those with the board.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. Yeah. The next item on the agenda is school visits and community affairs. This portion of the business meeting of the board is an opportunity for any board members to inform and provide updates from school visits or from organizations or groups they engage with on behalf of LWSD. Are there any updates from the board? I have one update. Director Stewart and I, along with Dr. Holman and a number of staff, attended our summer school graduation. Oh, I forget the date. It was a few weeks ago, which was wonderful to be here and celebrating our 6 graduates from, I believe, all 4 of our high schools, yes, yeah, all 4 of our comprehensive high schools, who had finished their course of study in the summer. One of the things that I thought was really cool, and I appreciated Principal Vanderveer calling it out at the very end, was the variety of different paths that students had taken to get here, very much playing in with some of the conversations we've been having tonight too. So of the 6 graduates, 2 had come through Flex Academy at Juanita, 2 had extensive participation in Wanik. They all had wonderful stories to share of how they've leveraged the different resources that are available in our system to really take a path to that diploma that was very meaningful for them. Some really impressive obstacles that had been overcome and directions that were taken. So appreciate congratulations to those 6 students and their families, and appreciate, as always, the invitation to the board, because it was wonderful. I did forget Kleenex, though, definitely next year. The next item on the agenda are board member committee updates. Do any board members have updates they would like to provide? Director Liberty, do you want to talk about levy advisory, or you want me to?
I was trying to figure out what I would say. Sure, I'll talk about it and you finish my sentences. We attended the levy, we being Director Guthrie and I attended the levy advisory committee meeting that was, I don't know, it was a warm day last week. I can't remember exactly which day. Tuesday, thank you. It was the 3rd and final meeting of the Levy Advisory Committee, and additional information was presented to the committee, and there was discussion around some of the different options for what could go to the board for approval to eventually be on the ballot around both the operations levy and the capital facilities levy. From where I sat, it was very, very interesting conversation and feedback from the committee, and I look forward to our next meeting discussing it.
All right. The board plans to meet next on September 15th, 2025 with a 5 p.m. study session and 7 p.m. board meeting. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the August 18th, 2025 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Yoakum that we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 9:11 p.m.